Hi there, this is Aaron Miller from AM Science Extra. In this lesson, we're going to look at the human body. And the first thing that we'll be able to discuss is the circulatory system. And this is our part one. Yeah, so when you're looking at the circulatory system, it is simply a system that causes blood to move around the body through blood vessels. When we're looking at the circulatory system, we need to know that it involves the heart, blood vessels, and lungs. Very important to take note of those things because they are the ones that we'll be able to discuss during the course of this whole topic. So the first thing that we're going to look at under the things that makes up the circulatory system is the blood. And we'll be able to discuss simply the composition of blood. When we're looking at composition of blood, we're simply talking of those things that makes up blood. It is important that we understand the things that are found in blood. We also need to know the functions of each of the things that are found in blood. So in blood, there are white blood cells. In blood, there is plasma. In blood, there are platelets. In blood, there are also red blood cells. Those are the components that are found in blood. Now, there is also a need for us to be able to know the functions of each of these things that makes up blood. So we're going to start with the white blood cells. So the white blood cells, they are simply there to fight against diseases. And these white blood cells, we will be able to understand that they are in different types, and therefore they perform their functions according to the way they are made. There is what we call cell specialization, performing functions according to the way cells are made. And then there is plasma. Plasma, we are told that this is the liquid part of blood, and it is the one that is able to transport water, it is able to transport minerals or nutrients, it is able to transport hormones, and many other things. The nutrients that are transported in this plasma, we have glucose, amino acids, as well as lipids. So that is what the plasma does. It transports water, nutrients, that is amino acids, lipids, and glucose. It also transports hormones and many other things. The blood cells also, they are transported, of course, by the plasma. The other thing that is found in blood, just like we mentioned, we have platelets. So the main function of platelets is that they help in the process of blood clotting. When you have a cut, it is these parts of the blood that ensures that that cut is sealed up as quickly as possible to ensure that there is no excessive bleeding. Because if there is excessive bleeding, it might be able to lead to death. So to prevent such from happening, there are platelets. The other things found in blood, just like we mentioned, are the red blood cells. The main function of the red blood cells is to transport carbon dioxide and oxygen. That is what they do. Apart from that, just like we are calling them red blood cells, they are also the ones that gives blood its red color. So the red color of blood that we're able to see comes from the red blood cells. And basically, that is what we need to know concerning the composition of blood. The last thing that we need to look at in this presentation is the human heart. So, as we're able to see, the human heart has two chambers on the left and two chambers on the right. And these chambers, the left and the right, they are separated by a muscle which we call a septum. So we're going to start with the right part of the heart. So from the right part of the heart, we have the right atrium, and this right atrium is connected to the vena cava. So the function of the vena cava is that it transports deoxygenated blood from the different parts of the body. When we say deoxygenated blood, we are simply talking of blood with less oxygen concentration. There is more carbon dioxide concentration in it. So this blood with more carbon dioxide is going to be taken to different parts of the body, back to the heart through the vena cava. And then just uh, as the vena cava is transporting this deoxygenated blood, the deoxygenated blood will firstly be able to enter the right atrium. So the right atrium is simply there to receive deoxygenated blood from the vena cava. And once this deoxygenated blood has been received by the right atrium, it goes into the right ventricle. Now, just before the right ventricle, there are what we call tricuspid valves. So the function of the tricuspid valves is to prevent the backflow of blood which is entering the right ventricle. There is a chance that this blood might be able to flow back. So to prevent such from happening, there are what we call tricuspid valves. So now once deoxygenated blood has entered the right ventricle, we are told that the right ventricle will be able to pump this deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So the function of the right ventricle is simply to pump deoxygenated blood to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. So once it has been pumped, just like we have said, it is going to be transported to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. So the function of the pulmonary artery is simply to transport deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Now, there are valves that we're able to see. Just before the blood enters the pulmonary artery, there are valves there. We call them semilunar valves. Those valves simply are there to also ensure that there is no backflow of blood back into the right ventricle. Yes. We have said that the pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Now, once this blood has been oxygenated, the carbon dioxide is removed from the blood, it goes into the lungs and it is breathed out. The oxygen comes in and the blood becomes oxygenated. So once the blood has been oxygenated, this blood is going to be taken back to the heart. And the blood vessel that is in charge of transporting oxygenated blood to the heart is the pulmonary vein. Once the pulmonary vein has transported this oxygenated blood, it is going to be received by the left atrium. So the left atrium simply receives oxygenated blood from the lungs. And then, just from the left atrium, the blood enters the left ventricle. Now, just like we said on the right side, just before the left ventricle, between the left atrium and the left ventricle, there are bicuspid valves. This also ensures that there is no backflow of blood which is entering the left ventricle. Now, once the blood has entered the left ventricle, we are told that the left ventricle, since it is a little bit more circular as compared to the right ventricle, it is going to create a high pressure so that this blood which is oxygenated can be pumped to different parts of the body. It is this left ventricle which is able to make sure that blood reaches even the toes there. It is this blood from the left ventricle which even reaches the head there. It is this which makes the blood be able to reach even the fingers on the hand there. So there is a need for the left ventricle to be able to create a high pressure as compared to the right ventricle. So the left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood at high pressure to different parts of the body. And then from the left ventricle, the blood which is oxygenated enters the aorta. So the function of the aorta is that it transports oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. So it is important to take note of that. Two different parts of the body. That is what the aorta does. Now, just before the blood enters the aorta, we have also the semilunar valves there. So the function of the semilunar valves, just like we said on the other side, is simply to prevent the backflow of blood back into the left ventricle. It is important to take note of that. So those are some of the things that we need to know concerning the human heart. So this has been your presenter Aaron Miller, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed, so that every time I post a video, you're going to be alerted first. So make sure that you hit the subscription button, which is just on AM Science Extra. Don't forget to do that.